Mwasibire muta, mwasibye mutya, amahoro, agandi, Bible, habari gani, muraho, sangonini, kopango, odeo. For those of you who are wondering what that was, these are some of the various local greetings found in East Africa's diverse languages. Welcome to She Center, the female podcast, where I dive into the issues and experiences that affect women everywhere. I am your host, Resti Kansime, and I am passionate about creating a safe space for women to share their stories and triumphs. I want to thank you for tuning into my podcast, and I would love for you to join our community and stay connected with us beyond this episode. You can find us on Instagram at _SheCenter_podcast and follow us on Facebook at the She Center Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and hit that follow and like button on our social media to be part of the conversation. Hey, welcome back to yet another episode of She Center, the female podcast. I hope your February is going very well, and I don't know if people are still celebrating Valentine's Day, because the one thing I look forward to during this season is those videos that they usually play. I don't know which country these guys are from. There's like a Valentine is coming. Ooh, where is your boyfriend? I love those videos. Every year these guys come up with something amazing, and I look forward to watching them on my timeline. I hope you guys are enjoying the beautiful love season. I'm a married person, so of course I'm going to enjoy it, and I hope that I'll be able to celebrate it as I should. When I was growing up, it's something that I definitely used to love, to dream about. I always wished to get presents and flowers, and I hope I do that this time. Mr. Agawa, have you heard Wahura? Anyways, guys, welcome back yet again to another episode of She Center, the female podcast. I am very happy to have you here, and today's episode is one of those that was kind of like a reminder of why I am doing this, and it kind of took me back to those early stages when I was starting out, when I was very passionate and empowered. A few years ago, I shared this on the episode, that a few years ago I was faced with, some of the things that I went through and some of the experiences that I had to go through when I was doing my research in the field, and how it drove me to make an impact in society after seeing so many young children doing my research in two research projects, that is gender-based violence and early grade reading. I faced a lot of challenges, not my personal challenges, but challenges that other young girls and people are facing, especially women are facing in society. Early childhood pregnancy. I grew up around this when I used to go to the village to spend holidays with my grandma. I had cousins who were young, and they would give birth, and their children give birth just around the same age as them. So it's kind of like a cycle that keeps going on and on. And the guest that I'm about to introduce today is someone who is doing amazing work. I found her on LinkedIn. It was one of those times when I was on, I woke up, I said, today I want to reach out to different people that I don't know, and I want to ask them to come onto the platform, people who are doing amazing work. And somehow when I went onto my LinkedIn, I found this girl who was sharing about how she faced abuse as a child and how she's doing all her work. She was working in a school as a bursar, and she decided to quit her job and start to do research and finding different ways to empower women. And I managed to get her to accept to join me. We have failed to get time. She has been busy. We couldn't get a time that was working for the both of us, but we finally did it today, and I am so glad that we had that conversation today, because it has given me so much to think about. It took me back to the time when I was starting out, because she is in the process of registering an organization which she wants to start to empower women. For many people who have never met someone who has experienced sexual abuse, or who was, if you're not exposed enough to these things in society, you might sometimes be able to just push it on the side when you hear people talk about this stuff. But if you have gone through it, it's something that can really touch your heart. And for my guest today, her name is Gloria Nabunnya. Gloria is a researcher. She also did social sciences, majored in gender studies and social administration. She's a young girl. She just finished just a few years ago, but she found herself working in a school. And even if she was working in a school, she didn't feel like she was living out her purpose. There's a lot of things that were happening in her society, and based on her personal experience, she felt the need to quit her job and go into the society and be able to make a change. And she is doing amazing work. She worked at a company where she was helping her friend, but she decided that she needs to focus on doing what she wants to do, and that is opening up a safe haven, a safe space for young girls and other women, to educate them about sex, and giving them a safe haven where they can come in case they're going through different, when they're facing these kinds of challenges. When I was talking to her, it reminded me of, I shared this in the episode about purpose, and also I think the episode which I had with my guest, my first male guest, because we work together in the field on these projects, Rika. We talked about our experience meeting some of these girls, and I particularly shared about this girl who was being sexually abused by her dad, and literally society couldn't do anything. The LC1, all they did was try to talk to him to stop it, but they couldn't stop him. He kept doing it, and this girl's academics were being, like, she was affected in school. She wasn't able to concentrate, but she couldn't leave because no one was able to take her anywhere. Like, there was literally nowhere to take this girl because that place doesn't exist. And she had to stay with her abuser, her father, who kept harassing her, sexually abusing her every day of her life. I wonder whatever happened to this girl, but I shared that this is one of the experiences that kind of pushed me. I wrote that in my journal. I wrote it in my diary. I wrote it everywhere because that story traumatized me. I felt so helpless. I felt like there's something I should have done. And initially, when I started out this project, I was like, I need to build a place where these girls can go. I even have it written everywhere in most of my things. But then I realized, because of the work that I was doing, there's a lot of stuff that I want to do. And it's always much easier for you to partner up with people who are already doing the work rather than doing it yourself. And that is why I ended up making the decision to create this platform, She Center, the female podcast, and the female platform that is coming up, the digital platform, which I keep telling you guys about. I figured that there's so many things that I wanted to do that are impacting society, but I didn't have to do them because there's people who are already doing this work. So I figured if I could just give a platform to these people, just both by sharing their stories and what their experiences are like, and also giving them a digital platform where people can come and find this information and find them, then it would really help me to be able to kind of tackle all these things. So in general, holistically empowering women through different ways, because people are not only being sexually abused, there's a lot of things that are endangering women and young girls and stopping them to thriving and experiencing life, being people, and just trying to avoid all these traumatic experiences. So I was very happy. I am very happy to have had this conversation with Gloria, because it has allowed me to go back to refuel me from that initial idea that I had. And I even reached out to her and I said, you know what, anytime when I'm in Uganda, I want to join you and on one of your outreaches, because I feel like if there's someone who is already doing the work, I don't have to start from scratch. I just have to join her and help her. So guys, I am going to put her information, her LinkedIn link. I guess it should be better. I will put her LinkedIn page. You can DM her, you can reach out to her, because she's really doing amazing work, and all she needs is support, finances, advice. As she said, she's trying to figure out this whole registration process. She's trying to figure out the financial, the digital thinking. Like, she wants to start the organization, but there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of stress coming with that. And it's my hope and prayer that anyone who is listening to this can be able to reach out to her and be able to support her in any way that you can, whether it's giving us some tips on how to do it or whether it is financially. Any advice would be amazing. And I am definitely also going to follow my own advice and reach out to her and help her to reach this goal, because that is why I started this platform. So, without further ado, I would like you to listen to Gloria Nabunnya. She is an amazing trailblazer who is doing amazing work in communities and using her own personal experience to shape the lives of young women, teaching them how to, deal with some of these things and how to avoid it from happening to them. So, without further ado, let's listen to Gloria's story and the work that she's doing in society. Gloria, thank you so much for your time. It was an honor to have you on the podcast, and I cannot wait to collaborate with you in the future. I love you all, guys, and bye bye. Enjoy the episode. Hi, Gloria. How are you doing?
I'm
How are
very
you?
good, thank you. How are you,
Um,
Rusty?
I'm okay. I'm glad to hear that you're fine. Are you at a school right now?
I'm at church building.
Oh, at church. Okay, I can hear the background noise. Sounds like it has some either children or some kind of like activity going on. Yes, I
Yeah.
like that. I once recorded someone who had cows and goats in the background. It sounded so good in the audio recording.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they were in the village. It was so nice to hear that.
Yeah,
Yes. All
that's
right.
good.
Thank you so much for making that time. I've been stalking your work on social media. It's interesting how the algorithm brought you up on a day when I was looking to for people who I could reach out to. And I sent you a
Mm,
message. I told you it's funny. I've been thinking about getting people in this specific category of work, and you
mm.
just kind of showed up on my timeline on LinkedIn,
Mm.
and I sent you a message. So thank you for making the time, for
You're
accepting to do
welcome.
this with me.
You're welcome.
Yes,
It's a pleasure.
yes. I
Mm.
have shortly, like briefly, told you a little bit about what I'm doing. For most people, this is just a podcast, but for me, it's more like I would also say my purpose, but
Mm.
it's a bigger goal to help me to kind of figure out what exactly women are going through in different areas, and also to not only tell the stories of those women, but also learn from them and then
Mm.
help me developing a digital platform that I am currently
Mm.
working on, which is going to have different
Mm.
services for women where they can come and find most of the things that they need. So in most of the cases, I try to listen to what people are saying, and I realize, I didn't put this aspect into the platform. And secondly,
Okay.
the long-term goal, of course, it's for the platform to develop it through research, but I also want to do my PhD. And when I started out, I wasn't sure what topic I
Mm.
want to uh, write about, but now I'm kind
Mm.
of zeroing it down after 1 year of doing the podcast. I'm zeroing it
Mm.
down to digital, like empowerment of women. So empowering women through digital
Mm.
platforms. And so,
Mm.
my first season, I asked people to share about their life stories. That was answering the question, "What happened to you?" And so they talked about
Mm.
how their childhood has impacted who they are right now and how they see the world. But right now,
Mm.
I'm asking about purpose. So I'm trying to explore purpose, to ask people, are they living in their purpose? If not, how are they navigating that season? Because I feel like ever since 2020, there's a way many people have this awakening of, doing the things that make you feel good. I read your story in one of your posts, how you were a teacher and you
Mm.
decided to come out and start speaking about certain things that you felt were necessary to be speaking about. And I guess in many cases, when you see someone living out their purpose, there's something about them, like even just them speaking or how they talk, it kind of
Mm.
captures you and you're like, this person really looks like they are passionate about what they're doing. So that's why I wanted to reach out to you. And
Okay.
I am very passionate about early childhood development and trauma
Mm.
with kids who are, growing up, and any person who is inspiring children, especially girls in this area, is
Mm.
something that, because it's building our future. It makes the work less stressful for them when they're older, if you try to help them
Mm.
when they're a little bit younger. Yeah, so I'm guessing I can
Exactly.
learn a lot from your experience, and I'm very
Mm.
excited to hear how you're going to share this. So in addition to answering the question, are you living in your purpose? You're going to answer let me rephrase the question. So, do you feel that you're living in your purpose right now? And how has your journey shaped that sense of purpose for you?
Right now, I would say I am on the road
You're on the road, okay?
to living in my purpose. I am on this journey, and I feel I'm getting there. Now, question would be, what is your purpose?
Yes.
So, my purpose, I believe, is advocacy, activism against childhood sexual violence. I I was actually a bursar in the school, as not a teacher, but as a bursar. And of course, I had different roles in the school. Of course, when you're in a school, you're a teacher. As long as you have a
Yeah,
position
true.
there, you're a
Yes,
teacher.
yes, yes.
So I was working there. But when I had graduated in Makerere in 2023, and I did Bachelor's of Arts in Social Sciences, where I
Oh, me
majored in
too.
gender. Yes, I majored in women and gender
Nice.
studies, and minored
Nice.
in public administration. So these classes of women and gender studies exposed me to a lot of, they exposed me to oppressions that are faced by marginalized groups,
Yes, yes.
women, uh, children. And at first, I thought my purpose was maybe advocacy, women empowerment, what and what.
Yes.
That was my line. That's what I thought in my head. And I remember, because I was so into this gender thing. I was so into it. And I remember I used to discuss with my friends. I loved it. I wanted to find ways. How can we help these women? How can we help these women? We studied different harmful cultural practices in
Yeah.
different areas of Uganda, female genital mutilation, you know,
Yeah.
like gender based violence. And I was like, how can I step into this? How can I, impact someone's life? But later, when I joined the school and started living in children, I realized that, by the way, life might not go as you planned it. What you went to
True.
school for is not where you might end up.
Very true. Yeah.
Yes. So one day I decided to leave the school. I realized I was in a wrong space. I was like, no, I need to leave this space. I need to leave the school. I left the school. I didn't work anywhere. I was staying at home.
Wow.
Then I started depending on research, because I'm a researcher as well. Like, I actually didn't introduce myself.
By the
Um,
way, in the beginning, I wanted to stop you and say, please first introduce yourself. But then the story,
yeah.
I was kind of like caught on with your story. I forgot to ask that. Yes,
To the
please,
viewers,
thank
my
you.
name is Nabunnya Gloria. My name is Nabunnya Gloria. I'm a researcher, an activist against childhood sexual violence. I'm a Christian born again. Yeah, literally, that's all about me for now. And
Okay.
like I was saying, so when I started, when I left work, I started to depend on only research gigs. I would go do a research gig and come back. I would go. So there's this day I was watching a movie. I'm forgetting its name, a series, and in the series there was an expression of course, of gender-based violence. And in the conversation, this lady was saying, me too, like, this lady, a mother, was telling her child, me too, I was sexually abused by that man when I was young. Why do you think this and this happened? So I am a victim of childhood sexual violence. But I did not think of, you know, fighting against this thing. I did not know, like, I did not know, I didn't even mind it. I was like, okay, it happened, it happened. So I watched this movie, and the child, like, a daughter was very angry with the mother. Like, why did you let this happen to me? And the mom was trying to explain, no, I did not let it happen to you actually. I was also a victim, you know. I tried my best to protect you, you know. I just failed. But I was like, oh, really? So people are really going through this. Uh,
Yeah.
I started giving it attention since then. I remember that is when I wrote my first post about childhood sexual violence. That's when I wrote it. And I felt this thing like, you know, when you're sexually abused, you're a kid. It might not seem to be like something that will hunt you down someday or something that you will
Yes.
actually think about later in life. But there are events that always bring it up. So
Yes.
this
Yes.
time round, I was in my room and I felt that the smell of whatever that happened, you know, then like I could smell it. You can imagine I could smell it.
Yeah.
I was so sad. And then I remembered that it was not only me that was actually abused by this person. So my other sisters were also victims. All my other friends, all my other, you know, were also victims. I didn't know what to do. I'm grown up. I'm now like 20, you know, 25 years now, but I was 24 then. So I was like, what can I do about this?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I started looking at, I studied that situation. I remember my parents didn't do anything about it. All I remember is people beating this person. We beating the perpetrator. And I do not know how they thought that that was okay. I
Stopping
mean,
him.
beating him
Yeah.
is now okay. Okay, now he can still stay in the same place. After all,
Yeah.
we've punished him. It is okay now. We can move on.
By the
You
way,
know.
yeah, I've never thought about it in
So
that way.
yeah. So I was like, what is this? This perpetrator stayed in the house even after abusing some people. Then he abused other people, even when he was caned. So the cycle kept on continuing. Now, I realized that actually I need to be the someone that stands up. This might actually be happening in other people's homes,
True.
and
Yeah.
people are quiet about it. They're protecting the family name. They're not taking this person to prison, you know.
Yeah.
They devised ways of managing this thing, but it is not the right way of managing it, you know. Beating a perpetrator does not stop him from, you know, sexually
That's
abusing
true.
other
Yeah.
children. Children are vulnerable. One child may say, I've been abused, another one will keep quiet for the rest of their lives. And
Yeah.
it will haunt them, you know, it is traumatizing. So that's when I found out that I actually need to be the right person
Yeah.
to
To speak about
speak
it.
against this evil, you know. So that's my purpose, activism against childhood sexual violence.
Yeah.
And I am driven to this through, you know, media. You can imagine media,
Yeah.
education, because I now like sat down and looked at a child's life. You know, in gender, we used to study that women face an intersectionality of oppressions. You know, you can be
Yes.
oppressed because one, you're black, because when
Yes.
you're a woman, two, you're black, three, maybe you have kids, maybe you're not married. So these are things that, you know. And I looked at children. Actually, children are more vulnerable. And I looked at children, if they're not empowered, they become the useless adults, let me say that, or they
Yes.
become the
Yes. True.
spoiled adults, you know.
They live out
So I
their trauma
realized
in
if I
different
am to,
ways.
you know, even if I am to stop this thing, if I am to, you know, add an impact to ending childhood sexual violence, I should start with the children themselves. Because
Yes.
in the children are the people that become perpetrators and are those that become victims, you know, of this thing. And are people that become drivers of the childhood sexual violence.
Yeah.
So, literally, me being a victim, actually me realizing that there were so many victims of this thing, and they were quiet in their homes, and they were silenced by their families to protect their family
Yeah.
name, pushed me to actually stand and step out of my comfortable zone and start on this journey of activism of ending childhood sexual violence. Uh, I would say the reason as to why I've said I've not reached my purpose, I've not yet reached there yet, is because I want to start an organization, and which I've already, I've already started that process.
Yes.
And I want to build homes, safe houses for survivors. I want
Yes.
to build teams of counselors, you know. So that is it for now, maybe.
Wow. What's up? Are there any, first of all, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And it's interesting that there are so many people, of course, apart from the fact that I read your story on your post, there are so many people who I reached out to, and they are doing work, speaking out, advocating for different things, and I didn't know what happened to them until they start sharing. Like, one of them was a psychiatrist that I spoke to. Maybe I will introduce her to you, like her work. I reached out to her because she's a psychiatrist, and she's, posting about different things. And then she starts telling about how she was also sexually harassed at home. And according to her, she said it took her until she was about, I think, 18 when she told her boyfriend. She didn't even tell her parents. They found out way later. Yeah, and then I spoke to another person who told me it also happened to her when she was young, and she didn't tell anyone until she was, I think, about 20, and it's because it happened to her again. Then another person I spoke to talked about how it happened to her, but then she told, I think, the parents, and they didn't believe her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very
Yeah.
possible.
So it's
Victims actually face that a lot,
yes. So
and
it's something that is happening a lot in people. Like
yes,
one
it is
out
a
of, is
cycle
it
that
one out
keeps
of
on
five?
happening.
Yes,
I think because it is not given enough attention, and also
exactly.
because of first of all the stigmatization around it, you
Yes,
know,
yeah.
and number two because of the cultures that we have that accept it, the cultures that accept, like, for example, child marriages, the cultures that, and
Yes,
also
yes,
maybe
true.
some books that maybe rate that rate, for example, they used to marry when they were young. So some people still do not find the
Yeah,
issue
they
in
don't
there. I
exactly.
mean,
Yes,
like
yes, yeah.
someone will be like, let me marry off my child. After all, the goal is marriage, but you're sending this child to a place where she has not, what she's not ready to be mentally. She's Some
She's
people
still at,
might think it is just marriage, but someone is going to sexually abuse her from there. She's going to face
yes,
gender-based
several
violence.
times.
And
Yes, yes.
also when you look at the childhood sexual violence, it gives birth to teenage pregnancies, you,
Very
like,
true.
and it causes children to be in a situation of raising children. Eh?
Yes,
You get.
yes, yes.
So
And
now
that's
which
trauma moved it
adult,
onto another
yeah,
person.
you get. And you'll find that this mother that has bared this child will have no problem, maybe, if their child is sexually abused. After all, I was also sexually abused when I was young, and no one came
Exactly.
out for
Yeah.
me,
You're
you
actually
know?
right. Yes, you're right. Yeah, this
Yeah,
happened to
so
my cousin in the village. Um, I don't know if I should call it sexual abuse because, it's like you said, it's so normal in our cultures back home that children under the age of 16, 18, with people who might even be older or maybe others who are the same age. So my cousin got pregnant when she was probably around 14, 15, and then she gave birth and she had to raise her child. Now she had to drop out of school. She had to raise her child. And a few years later, the daughter is not even 15, and the daughter also gets pregnant. So what's the mom
yeah,
supposed
the
to tell
cycle
her?
continues.
Yeah, so the cycle continued. The daughter also is became a teen mom, and I'm guessing the cycle is repeating itself. I haven't heard from them in a long time, but this is exactly like this. No one in society is approaching the person who did this and
No
telling
one is
them
even
you're
bothered.
going to you're going to prison. They just ask either for dowry, they marry you off, and that's it, or they leave the
Exactly.
person. Like you said, I have another cousin in the village who the houseboy got her pregnant and he ran away.
Mm-hmm.
But people moved on. She gave birth.
Yeah.
She went back to school. So people are like, you know what? It's okay. So if people keep seeing this, the men or the boys in society, then they are like, okay, there's no severe punishment
We,
for doing
you
this.
know,
I can
so
do
I
it
can
again. I can
actually
do it to
do
another
it.
person. Exactly. So at the end of the day,
Yeah.
culture, like society is failing us. I personally was very touched by a story of when we were doing, I was also doing research as a researcher in USAID based projects on early grade reading and child and gender-based violence. And we were talking to this girl. She was, I think, in P3. And she told us, we were asking, questions like, has this ever happened to you? This ever? And she said, oh, my stepdad does this stuff to my little sister who was in nursery. So we didn't know how to get this information from this young girl. So we asked them to bring their mom the next day. So the mom came thinking, a big organization from Kampala is coming. They're probably going to give me money. She came well dressed. And so the counselor sits down and talks to her and tells her, do you know that this is happening in your family? I kid you not. This woman said, you people don't know how we are suffering here. Um, we are competing with our children. That girl just likes my man. That's why she's lying that he's doing
You
these things to our young daughter. I'm like, what?
now, actually, you can pause. Let me actually interrupt you with that.
No
That is
problem.
the other thing I am actually focusing on one of these days. I am looking at adults' perception of childhood sexual violence,
Yes,
and it is
yes.
very poor. Very poor. You heard that man say that. Have you watched of or heard of, I mean, a musician called Virota, and then a child who is sexually abused? People
Who? Which
actually call
musician?
it. People say, yeah, there's a musician called Virota, and he sexually abused a girl, like that, and the girl got pregnant. He told her to abort, and she refused to abort, and it's everywhere in the news. And in Uganda, people are like, it is the girl's fault. She took herself to the man. And I was trying to explain to people that
I don't think
with
so.
cases of childhood sexual violence, learn to understand that an adult is an adult. A child is a child. You know, I actually wrote something that there should be no reason for someone to sexually abuse a child. And I wrote that this is what perpetrators say. The girl came at me. Hmm? The girl liked me. She undressed in front of me. She did this to me. She dresses poorly. She does what? But the girl you're talking about is 18 years and below, which is
Yeah.
considered to be a child. And it is
Yes.
your right and role to protect this child, not to take
Very true.
advantage of them. You cannot tell me that just because you found that this girl is a prostitute at the age of 16, it caused you to
Then you
buy
should.
her.
Yes.
It
Yes.
caused you to, that does not make sense. Your role, even if you find her as 16 years old and she's on the road, get her off the road. Take her to police. Do
Yes.
something in your authority, in your level of understanding, to support this child, not to use them. So all the excuses people have, the girl came at me, she wanted my husband. These days those girls do this. These days
Yeah.
those girls run for
Yeah.
marriage. Those girls are exposed. However much they are exposed, people these days, people have actually principles. You'll find that someone will say, me, I cannot get into a taxi. And they will never get into a taxi for their entire life. Me,
Yes.
I cannot choose this. I cannot choose that kind of soap. I cannot choose the blue
Yeah.
soap. And they're always
Yes.
buying oyster in their life. But they cannot
Yes.
say, me, I
Yes.
cannot
Very
sexually
true.
abuse
Yeah.
a child.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
which is the attitude we all need, to end this thing.
True.
If adults could know that, yes, I am an adult, I'm actually 18 years and above. So even if this child comes to me, even if their mother forces them, and most of the times it's the mother sometimes that tell these girls to go out and find these men, or even the fathers, or even anyone, or it's influence, peer pressure, So it is not that I always try to tell people someone will, a child will not wake up from their bed and be like, now I'm looking for man. I want a man. They must have been exposed to it before somehow,
Yes, yes,
you
yes,
know.
very true.
So
Yeah,
protect
yeah,
the child at all costs, and tell me how she's going to end up loving your man.
yeah.
Protect the child.
They are
And also, your
victims.
man has a responsibility. I mean, every man, every adult has a responsibility of
Very
saying
true.
no to this thing, because we are the drivers. We are the ones that expose these girls to pornography. We expose them to different things, to social media. Eh? We expose them to every obscene thing. But if at
Yeah,
all we could, I mean, stand down and know that, okay, this girl is actually 18 years and below. This boy is actually 18 years and below. If I do this to them, I'm ruining their life. I'm ruining a next generation. You know, I'm causing trauma, endless trauma.
yeah,
Then I
yeah.
mean, we would be somewhere.
I love that. When you're speaking, I'm thinking about how in countries where, for instance, it is high, like the law is no, like it doesn't matter whether the child was like before midnight and they were turning 18. As soon as they see
Mm-hmm.
you with this child, you are going to
Mm.
prison. They don't care. There's no like the penalty is always very high. So that means
Exactly.
if the society has set rules that are very like it's really bad, then you will think
Mm.
about it when you're doing it. But if you feel like
Mm.
society is not going to tell you anything, you bribe some money to the police and they are going to set you
You
free,
know?
then what is it to stop you from doing it again? So at the end of the day, it is the society that is failing these children.
Yeah. People bribe the police. Parents
Yeah.
actually ask for money, they ask for courts. When you look at our president, our president released defilers of children when he was releasing people from prison. I mean, there are people that stole some chicken, release those ones. You cannot
Exactly.
release
Yeah.
rapists
Because they will do
and
it again.
defilers of children,
Mm,
you know?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So there
yeah.
should be. I remember one thing when I was young, and I tried to share it with someone. When I was young, there's this thing I used to hear. Men, I don't know whether I just used to hear it, but I used to hear it. Men had phobia for children. Ha, mama, oyagala kuntwaza luzira. Like you would hear stories
Mm.
of
Yes,
oyagala
yes, yes.
kunsibya.
Yeah.
Kana abato baleke oyagala kunsibya, oyagala kuntwaza
Mm,
luzira. But these
mm,
days, no. People are not even worried about that. No.
yeah. Yeah.
So I'm wondering,
It's so bad.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
I
is it.
wanted to ask, in doing your work, like your research and some of the work that you're doing in the communities, maybe you can speak a little bit about the kind of work that you're doing. I've been seeing you on LinkedIn. What challenges or obstacles have you faced in living out your purpose? You've mentioned a few of them, like
Mm.
the parents and the older people, what the ignorance about it, and them turning the other side. How have these
Mm.
experiences helped prepare you for the impact that you're striving to make? Like how has all these obstacles that you're facing, how are they fueling you with this goal of yours of creating a safe space and a place where these kids can come and thrive?
Okay. You have, first of all, asked the work I do in the community. First of all, I'm a researcher, like I told you. Research to people might seem like a job, but to me, yes, it is a
Oh
job, but
no, it's the
also
most
a
important
way, an
thing. Yeah.
interaction, because
Yes.
with
Yeah.
research, you find knowledge, you find people's experiences. So that I do. And then I do charity, like like we do charity. We take things to these girls, like clothes, pads, because girls really need the support.
Yes, true.
People are not sure of menstrual poverty. You see that people talk about menstrual poverty, but
Yeah.
people don't know menstrual poverty. But so with that, with the knowledge we have, we give the girls pads, clothes, charity, and then we offer counseling services to these girls. Counseling services to the pregnant ones, those that have finished giving birth, those that are actually in the process of getting pregnant. Because uh, basically, if I to tell you, most of the girls that are in the slums are from different areas, you know. So I work a lot with the slums. They're from different areas. Some are from the village. They'll tell you they brought me to Kampala to work, but then they lied to me. They brought me to Kampala to study. My auntie lied to me. So they had to find their own way. So they ended up in the slum, you know.
Yeah.
So charity, we do counseling, and then yeah, providing intentional sex education and building on that. That is actually my core value. That is my core goal. Providing
Yeah.
intentional sexual education. When
Yeah.
you look at the sex education provided to Uganda, I don't know if you've been to Uganda. You've been in our classes.
Yes, I
You studied
studied
in
there.
Uganda.
I
You
just came
did.
after my bachelor's.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes, I
when you
did.
look
I
at
know. They
the
didn't
sex
teach us
education
anything.
provided in Uganda, it is usually a jokery
It's
thing.
not.
A teacher comes in, you laugh and laugh and laugh about what I don't even know. A
And
teacher
the
moves
kids
on.
get excited.
They
And
get
then you move on
excited.
to the next
Ah,
topic.
ah,
Yes.
sex, 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 sex. The teacher
Yes,
leaves.
true. Yeah.
Sometimes those lessons are actually cut, and the teacher gives it. He comes in
Yes.
with
Especially if
another
it's a male
subject.
teacher.
You know. Sometimes, so there are different things. When you look at the sex education in Uganda, it's very poor, and that is
Very.
my core goal. You
Yeah.
know, I want to provide free sexual education or sex education to every school I can reach in Uganda. You know, which I
Yeah.
cannot do alone. I am so aware I cannot do this alone, you know. So I want to train people. I want to push this, to push organizations to embark on this.
Yeah.
Because the only you'll find that most of the times when you go to the schools for, I actually also do school outreaches. When you go to the schools for outreaches, you find that in the school there are children that have been sexually abused, but the teachers don't know until you get there.
That's true. Yeah.
It is you that has actually found this thing, but you are a guest. I mean, you are a visitor.
Yeah.
You've
In
only
one day,
come
moreover.
for
Yeah.
1 day, 2 days, and the teachers that are living in the school, the senior woman and senior man teacher, do
They
not
don't
even
know.
have knowledge of this thing.
Yeah.
So you get surprised and wonder, and you're like, what is this?
Are you really
There was a
trained? I
study I was
think also
doing
that
with
shows they
my,
are not trained to do their job. They think
there
it's
was a
just about
study.
teaching. Yeah.
Exactly. There was a study I was doing with my Japanese friend. She was doing her masters, and the study was about still teenage pregnancies and something like that. And we found that most of the girls, eh, they don't even they've never used condoms in their lives. They've never used condoms in their lives. They've never. So my Japanese friend said, "What is wrong with these girls?
Yeah.
Don't they tell you people in schools to use condoms?" She told me, like, in our country, 90% people use condoms. 90%. Here in Uganda, the study we made, no girl was using a condom in PG district. No girl.
Wow.
Their contraceptives were pills. These pills affect the girls, The contraceptives were pills. The contraceptives were local herbs, and
And they
no
can get
condom at all.
sick, not even
They can
thinking
get
about that.
sick,
Yeah.
HIV, pregnancy. Let me tell you, there's also a friend of mine that, a Cameroonian friend of mine that I was telling about this thing. And he was telling me the same thing. He was like, me, I'm surprised. Girls here in Uganda are condom sick. You get. So I'm wondering which kind of sex education that is given in schools. Of course, me too, I did not get it. I mean, I went to my
Many
school
of
and
us
left. No
didn't.
one even, no teacher even had an
They just
idea
tell
of
us stay
maybe
away from sex, don't talk about it, or
you get.
just
Yeah,
make it like that
they
topic that
they
you
they
keep
only
wondering.
they only they only write the talking compounds. You know the talking compounds.
Mm-hmm,
They
mm-hmm,
only
mm-hmm.
have the talking
Yes,
compounds about it, and they think
yes,
that's enough to communicate. It
yeah,
is
yeah,
good. It communicates, but it's not
yeah.
enough. You know.
It's not a conversation. Yes,
Yes, it's not a conversation.
yeah,
Yeah. So exactly. I mean, sex education. It is a very
yeah, yeah. Is there
core
any, apart
objective.
from like personal
And
research, is
now the
there any?
challenges.
Yes, I
Pardon?
wanted to ask, is there, I saw you're working with an organization. Is there like a full-time organization that you're working with, or are you only doing like different research on different topics?
I was doing the research, but I was working with YoHelp Uganda. YoHelp Uganda is an organization, and uh, its core goal is to end teenage pregnancies in the slums. You know, to empower girls and women.
Yeah.
But it's my friend's organization. I was always, pushing, supporting, coming in. But now, like I told you, I'm starting my own organization.
Yes, yes,
I'm in the process
yes.
of registration, and one of the challenges, like you asked, one of the challenges is not knowing the registration process. In
I
Uganda,
I know it
when you
was so
talk to
complex for
people,
me as well.
people
Yeah,
are telling you different prices. Some are telling you 900, some are telling you 700, some are telling you 1.2. So you get confused and somehow actually discouraged. You
yeah,
lose your goal, and you're like, now sometimes actually that is big money. It is not small money. And since
yeah,
I'm not working
yeah,
now, I'm like, where am I going to get this money? So that is
yeah.
one of the challenges. Not
Challenges.
knowing, not
Yeah.
having knowledge on registration, it's not available. Then the other thing is the other challenge is finances, like I've been saying. Eh? Money. Running this thing, money is actually affecting me from reaching my goal. Then the other thing is not having connections
Yeah.
with big organizations, with people that have been doing this organizational work. So that is actually one of my biggest challenges, not having the connections to the people in the field that have been in the field for a while. Okay? Yes, I'm getting the exposure because I joined the Brave movement and I'm the youth representative, but there's something I need and I've not yet gotten it.
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
some kind of interaction I need from people that have been in the field of activism and advocacy that I've not gotten yet.
Yeah, but I'm guessing, I think every time someone starts out, you have the vision, you have something to do, but with time, like for instance, like putting yourself out there, the work that you're doing, it makes you noticeable. I have this analogy that I listened to where someone was sharing that most times to catch a butterfly, you move around and chase and get tired and run after it, which is impossible. Or you can plant a garden, cultivate that garden, put up flowers, and then the butterflies are going to come to you. So I guess you're doing the right work. Like when you said that you're not yet at your purpose, I think we all have a long-term goal that we want to achieve, but there are also a lot of things that we need to do before we get to that goal. But that doesn't mean that we are not doing it. Like I'm guessing even Facebook has something that they want to do in the future, which their goal is, but it's taking them a longer time. So for me, I feel like you are living your purpose. You're doing what you're supposed to do, but you have this bigger goal that you want to do. And the same way that I found you, I'm sure it's the same way all these other big organizations are going to find you. Because in many cases, when you're applying for funding, applying for resources, they are going to ask you, what have you done? You can't come with your idea and say, this is what I want to do. In many cases, they want to see, have you consistently been doing something? I've also been doing this work now for 1 year, but I have something else that I want to do. Although many people think it's just a podcast where there are stories, I have this goal I want to do. And my limitation, just like you, is, I need money to do that thing. But I've chosen, instead of frustrating myself about that big goal, I've chosen to focus on doing what I can do right now. And for me personally, I feel like you're doing amazing work. You're informing people, and that research is going to help you in the end. So maybe you can tell us what this a little bit in detail, what exactly this safe place that you want to create, because maybe there's someone out there who is listening and they're like, okay, what exactly does this girl have in plan to make? How do you envision this place? How is it going to be? How is it going to empower the girls?
Um, so about the safe space,
Mm,
I of course, apart from the bigger one, the bigger one,
mm,
the one I'm
mm,
telling you about,
mm,
I wanted to start with something like this. During holidays is when, of course, sexual child sexual abuse happens a lot, but during
mm.
holidays, I think the
Holidays,
numbers are
yes,
high.
yes, sure.
So, have you heard of Chisakate by the Nabagereka? You've
Yes,
heard of
yes.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wanted to do that same thing, like something like just like you see the Chisakate, but now
Mm,
this one, eh, is this one is basically about sex education, providing
mm,
the
mm-hmm,
intentional sexual education to the children.
mm-hmm,
It will be having sports, different sports. Children
mm,
can engage in different activities, but our
mm,
core goal is
mm,
delivering the sex
mm.
education to the
Yes.
children. You know,
Mm, mm,
and now the other thing about the housing, the safe spaces.
mm.
I wanted to start a home like for these victims of childhood sexual violence. Why? Because
Yes.
most of the times when I went to these schools, when I went to these villages, you find
Mm,
that children will tell you, I have nowhere to go. Yes, you're giving me the support today,
mm,
but the
mm.
person that abuses me is my father, whose house I live in, who pays my education.
True,
Like
true.
I get that 100% support from this guy at the end of the
Mm,
day. So
mm.
if I tell you you're not taking me out of the situation, then you're not helping.
Yeah, yeah.
I cannot report this man to police. He's my provider.
Mm,
So
mm.
such things that keep our children in a
Stuck.
situation of abuse.
Mm,
So
mm,
and so I wanted to create that safe space where I can bring those children, to come and stay and live here and get education and get everything. They think the perpetrator is the only one that can do them for them. So
mm.
giving these children a new life to begin with.
Yeah.
And also the other thing, yeah, the but it has to come with education and all, because I remember there is a time a friend of mine called me. There's a friend of mine also who knows that I'm an advocate and I have passion for this thing. I love this thing. She called me and she was like, you know what, I've been to a school. I found this girl. She's abused, but she cannot leave the home because she doesn't have where to go. Like, do you have
Mm,
any space? I looked at myself.
yeah.
I didn't have any
Yeah.
space. I didn't know
Mm,
how to
mm.
help this girl.
It's
I thought of
frustrating.
bringing her to my place, but
Mm,
but my space is a bit small. So I
yeah.
was like, now how can I support this girl?
Mm,
I
mm.
really lost word. And
Yeah.
that is when I thought of this thing as a serious thing. I actually need to create, I actually need to start these homes and support
Yeah.
these girls entirely.
Wow.
Most of the times, the
Mm.
perpetrators are only imprisoned, but
Yeah.
I am not sure that they are actually provided with counseling.
Interesting.
So you can imprison a man for 20 years
He will come
and
back
he
the
comes
same way.
back and he does the same thing.
Yeah.
But if at all you imprison this man or you
And then,
create a hard punishment, whatever it is,
mm,
on top of that, you provide
the,
counseling services,
wow.
help
Never
on
thought
how
about
to
it that
stop
way.
this thing, then
Yeah.
you'd be helping,
Mm,
you know?
mm. Yeah.
So that as well is part of my goals. Like
That's beautiful.
Even
I've
when I'm
never seen it that way. Yeah.
supporting the victims, I should be
Yeah.
supporting the perpetrators as well.
Perpetrator. Yeah.
Yes.
I know many people are trying to inform the society, like you go in school, tell the boys what not to do, or maybe the men. But it's quite an interesting perspective for you to see that even the person who is in prison, they might be released on good behavior, but they're still the same person. Like they don't see exactly how they are going to stop because you don't know what they went through to become that way. Because in many cases,
Exactly.
if I grow up and I'm seeing in society, my father is raping maybe my mom or raping everyone. I see it as a normal thing. So if I do it and you punish me, I'll be like, okay, maybe I was just caught. My father still like you come back into society and you're still the same person. You're going to do exactly what you did before. So
And I
that's
like
quite
that you said
interesting.
maybe I was just caught. Because I was reading
Exactly.
something like
Many
that.
people do it,
And
but they're
like
not
people
being
do
caught.
not know that sexual violence is violence unless they are caught.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless they are
For them,
caught.
they think they're entitled. It's like, for instance, people who don't know that married women can be sexually abused. If you report it, Paul will be like, you're married.
I
Your
mean,
husband is entitled to doing, but
to
no,
doing
you're not
whatever.
supposed to force me. Yeah. So that's really amazing work. And I wanted to say earlier, I have shared this before in an episode, which was very emotional for me. I think that one of the things that really fueled me to start this platform is a story similar to yours, where I was in the field doing research for this organization that I was telling you about, and this girl we talked to, in addition to the other girl who was young, who the mom said, I'm not going to do anything. This girl was actually being sexually harassed. Like we went into her school and the head teacher told us, you need to call out this girl because she was in a class all higher. She was not in the target audience. So we kind of created some sort of scenario where we went and picked randomly other kids and we picked her. The teacher said, please, you need to help this child. We have failed as a society to help her. Her father is sexually harassing her because their mom died. Apparently, in societies in the villages, the parents, the fathers, if their wife is not there, it's instead of them going and spending money on vibing, asking out women and sleeping with them, they choose to do it to their children because it's free and the child is not going to say anything. I'm providing for that child. So when a colleague of mine spoke to the girl and the counselor, it turns out that the teachers didn't know how to help her. They can't remove her. The LC one couldn't help her. Like they tried to talk to the man and tell him to stop doing it, but he wasn't stopping. So they had to leave this girl there because there is no place where they could. I literally have it written down in one of my problem statements. There is no place where this girl could be removed and put, which was safe enough for her. And that thing tormented me so much because, I was coming from Kampala. We are doing research in the village. I'm like, not even a relative can be willing. But then when they talked to the girl, the counselor talked to her and she said, if I leave, she's going to start doing it to my young sisters. So she sacrificed herself and said, you know what? She was in P5. Maybe if I finish and become older, I can leave and take my sisters with me.
But
But
where
that
will
means
she go? Live for what? For
exactly.
marriage.
Those are the kids who you find
And
like
find
bad
another
black.
man
Those are
that
the
will
kids who you
perpetuate.
actually find who leave and go into prostitution
Yeah, yeah,
because they are
exactly.
desperate enough to find anyone that can give them some money. That
And
thing
then
made
the
me
and
feel
then
so helpless.
and then everyone will say those are the girls that put themselves on a
Exactly,
man.
exactly, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I was listening recently to Bad Black, and she was sharing how she ended up going onto the street to become a prostitute. And I was like, people look at this woman and judge her, but they do not actually know what led her there. She talked about how she was struggling and how she ended up in such situations. So in many cases, like you said, you go onto the street, you're getting a prostitute who is young. You're not even thinking in your head, this girl needs help. She's sick. She needs, she's traumatized. Let me take her. But even still, where is that place where you're going to take this girl? Even if you wanted to help her, what can you do?
Yeah, so such things really made me, sit down and think of a place. I have that
Yeah.
place in mind. I actually wanted to call my organization Safe Home, Safe Child because I was envisioning that home, but the name was Like people had names related to that one. So I had to settle for Together Against Childhood Sexual Violence. I reserved the name, but that's my goal. Even if I
It
start
is a
small
beautiful
with
goal. It is. It's a
the small
beautiful goal.
house, I know I
Yeah.
will, I will
Yeah.
achieve this thing.
And
Because most of the time,
interestingly,
those people will be like, I want to help, but now,
they don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
how?
I do.
Eh?
It's a,
Someone
it's
wants to help,
amazing.
they only have 100,000. That 100,000 will not get that child a home. So, if at all, maybe, like, that is what I thought. If at all I could maybe get this space for these children, and then the support can keep coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is it.
It's beautiful. I
Mm.
did. I'm very mesmerized by what you're saying because I did envision a place like this. I even have like you. I researched. I looked
Mm.
up. I was even watching a movie which was express like showing the sexual violence, and it was showing up how these women are treated. Like in America, they have this safe place. Actually, I'll look for this video. I don't remember what it's called and send it to you. Like they have a safe place in America if you are being either sexually abused or harassed, like beating or something. There's a place where you can go and stay there for a couple of days, and then the social workers help you and then settle you back into society and hide your identity and all stuff like this. So I researched this and all that, but then I also had so many other visions that I wanted to do. But I was like, okay, I'm settling for reaching out to
This.
people who are doing this work and seeing how I can work with them. Because if you choose to do everything, then you can't do anything. You have to
Yeah,
have,
and that's what I was
yeah,
saying. That
yeah,
personally, I might not be able to achieve everything, but maybe if
yeah,
I have connections, maybe you know this
exactly.
one, you know this
With this
one,
person
you
doing
can
this, yeah,
achieve.
it
Yeah,
can help you.
yeah.
Yeah, true, very true.
It is
I like
better
that.
working together than working alone. I've learned
Exactly, yeah.
that.
Yeah, I look
Yeah.
forward to seeing this safe place, and I'm really excited for the work that you're doing. I know the process of registering an NGO is hard. It's very hard, and as you said, it's confusing because we have a lot of corruption. You are trying to do the good work, but for some reason, people want to gain money from you. Even just registering my company, I had to pay someone and someone is telling you, oh no, for this you pay this, for this you pay. I'm like, guys, I'm trying to do good work in society. Why are
Yeah.
you charging me money for all this? But as
Yeah.
soon as I think it's ready, even if it's that 100,000 that you were talking about in
Mm.
collection, in a collective action, that 100,000 can
Yeah.
save more than one
It's
child.
yeah,
Yeah.
it can support more than one child.
Yeah. Okay. So one last question I wanted to ask is, looking ahead, how do you see your purpose and contributions growing? I know we've talked about this, but I wanted maybe you can answer the next part of the question. What role do you think a platform like She Center can play in supporting women through this process of discovering and evolving their purpose?
Um, First of all, the role is activism. What we are talking, me and you, is
Yeah.
already activism.
Yeah.
So if at all, if at all this information maybe we've shared with you reaches more than 10 people or 10
Yeah.
people, that will be an impact to them. So
Yeah.
first of all,
Yeah. True.
she center is helping with, I mean, mobilization.
Yeah.
Someone will look for Nabunnya Gloria and will look for
True.
how they can
Very
support
true.
Nabunnya Gloria and her
Yeah. Yeah.
organization, and
Mm,
maybe
mm,
Together Against Childhood Sexual Violence. Someone
yeah.
will, it is, it is also a way of, I mean, distributing knowledge to different people. Most of the people
Mm,
don't know. Actually,
yeah.
with this thing of activism, one thing I've loved about it, people will inbox you and be like, I didn't know this thing happens. I didn't know
Mm,
you can actually do this to this thing. I remember there was a time we went for an outreach in the slum,
mm,
and I was telling these girls, if a man touches you, why you don't want, report them to police.
mm,
And the girls were like, just touching. I told them, yes. The least things we ignore give birth to the biggest things. It starts slowly. A man can
yeah.
even touch you like this. Those looks that you see, if a person is gazing at you in a sexual way, report
Mm,
them. Report them to your
mm,
parents. The girls
mm.
were very surprised. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
So the
yes.
information we are sharing, I'm saying maybe the perpetrators also need counseling services. If that information lands into the right ear from this podcast, and maybe someone could influence something out there. So I think the most
Yeah.
important thing that the podcast can do for us, can do for me as an activist and other women, is first of all
Spread the
making
word.
sure like this information gets to the community. I was trying to listen to some of the podcasts. They are good. They, you know, they are informative.
Yes,
So
yes.
you have seen the kind of things people enjoy these days. Social media is too good. uh, Someone can just post a video on TikTok and the video goes viral. It hits 1 million
Yes.
views.
Yeah.
Imagine the kind of people getting the right information,
Yeah. And
you know?
sometimes it's bad information, so it rather be good.
Yeah, so sometimes it's bad information. Now, this time round, they're getting right information.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
feel like
True.
that would be a great thing. That would be a great thing. And maybe She Center can also put maybe a funding page for, like, you can start a GoFunding
Yeah.
for maybe the different stories you've listened
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah.
But a GoFunding, it can be for She First. So someone is funding She First, Reste Can See Me, and then you can maybe fund those ideas you've had from this,
Yes,
because
that's true.
you're going to meet different people, you're going to be talking to different people. You can fund the different ideas from the different people
Yeah.
that stood out for you. So I feel
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah, and
that would
that's
be.
definitely my goal for the online platform. My goal is, of course, it's not to give so much away from it. The website is in development. It's just remaining with a few minor touches. But that is something that I figured instead of me moving around, like for instance, if I want to help this thing, I've never experienced it. So there must be someone like you who has experienced it, who has a much stronger connection to it, who people will listen to and connect, and they connect with you so that they can be able to say, oh, I can share with this girl because she shares my story. So I figured instead of going around and doing these different things, I can partner up with the people doing it and find a way to
Exactly.
do it. If the website is ready, attach it, so that this person can reach out. Like some people have shared their stories here, and I've had people who have called me and said, can you put me in contact with that person? I need their services, or I want to buy their book or something like that. So that is definitely something. But I also wanted to ask you, because you talked about funding, maybe you could take your own advice and put your goal and what you want to do onto GoFundMe, and maybe that way I can put that link onto my social media, and then reach more people, because what you're trying to do requires support from people, and you just need a link to explain it, to express it, your research, put it there on GoFundMe, and then you can give that link to the rest of us who have a platform to share it on your behalf. I think that would be a good
Okay.
goal as well also. Yeah. All right.
I'm
Thank you
learning
so much,
slowly, and I love
Gloria.
the fact that you're in tech. There are
Yeah,
things
I think yes.
you
Yeah.
know. There's a time we studied tech, women in tech, and for real, we are not so good in tech. Some of us, the women, since we used to see
Yeah.
those engineering and IT things for boys.
Yeah.
They, with gender and everything. But I just pray that I'm
Yeah.
trying to learn these things, to get into how to use the internet,
Sure.
how
Yes.
to use the
Yeah.
internet
Yeah.
to do this, how to do, and I'm
Yes.
having a friend that is trying to support me with that. So,
Yeah, that's great.
yeah,
I
I
like
like
that.
that.
I
Thank
like
you
that.
very much.
Yeah, and definitely. And I have your contact, so in case I have any ideas, I can definitely always send them to you, because what you're doing is exactly what I want to do. But although
Thank
I
you.
am not as well informed as you are, so I would
Thank you.
definitely love to collaborate with you in the future. Thank you so much, Gloria, for your time. And I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
this. I'm glad the internet didn't disturb us. All
Thank
right.
you very much. Yeah.
Please help me spread the word by sharing our episodes with your friends, family, and followers. Let's amplify the voices of women, break barriers, challenge stereotypes, and create a network of support and empowerment. Together, we can bring about positive change and make this world a better place for all. This is She Center, the female podcast, where women's stories matter. I love you all. God bless.